Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely impossible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to PSGL here for E-Series Season 6, round number 8 of the Championship, where today we head off to Silverstone, one of the homes of motorsport, especially the home of British motorsport. And of course, heading into this rain, Corey, we've had a very close championship so far, but of course Spain was quite dominant for Ferrari, taking a 1-2 in qualifying, then converting that to a 1-2 in the race, and now they lead by 93 points in the standings. So heading into this, I wouldn't say have comfortability, but I don't think they really have to worry too much, do they?
Absolutely not. I mean, was comfort even a factor for Ferrari? They are three-time champions here in E-Series, taking Season 2, 3 and Season 4 back-to-back. And here we are again for another run-in, and it seems like Ferrari are going to make it another championship to take to the belt. Of course, the Veloci drivers took it last season, putting a bit of a stop to the dominant run, but they're back again coming in Season 6 for another charge and potentially take another championship. It's getting close though. Can Red Bull stop them?
Well, it is getting close, and Red Bull have had, I think, a better season than they did last time in, I think it was Season 4 they took part in last. They currently sit P2 in the standing, and it's a 93-point gap, and then R8G in third, matching the points of Red Bull so far. Then in fourth, it will be Williams Sim Racing. We have FBR, brilliant season by those guys so far, rounding off the top 5 on 191. And then P6, we have the Alpine Sim Racing team ahead of Veloci Academy. McLaren Shadow in 8th. It's been a poor season for them. 9th is FRT. And 10th will be VNT on 89 points. And looking as well at the lineups for this evening, we will see that it will be Kian Godendorp and Ulash Azildrim, the favoured lineup for Red Bull this season. And then in Williams we have Matthias van Erven, I believe his first appearance this season. He's alongside Ruben Pedroño, who took part last race. Then we have R8G with Tamas Gal and Tycho Hardy. Then we have Enzo Soom and Stephen Vasso, I believe both making their first appearances this evening for VNT. And then in Alpine we have Josh Edo and Ben Shabakonyi. McLaren, it's Jack West and Shimon Lekomsky. We have in Ferrari, Angelo D'Ortenzio alongside John Evans. FER, it's Declan Barrett making a return. He's alongside Rens Thomason. And then we have Luca Rapassa making his first appearance this season for Veloci Academy alongside Pasquale Ranielli. And then finally, making his first appearance this season, Skither, a driver I haven't seen in a very long time. He's alongside, I'd say, probably the favoured driver for FRT, Gabor Chontos. So we have a very, very good grid this evening here, Corey. And is there any drivers that you're kind of looking at to possibly hunting for a podium or a win tonight?
I've got to say, it's back to the Ferrari boys. Angelo D'Ortenzio, I always try and keep my eye on him. Since he's made his recent signing with Ferrari, it's certainly been somebody to watch out for, a challenger coming for those top spots. Even here in E-Series, he's certainly helped Ferrari along in their fight to bring them to that top spot. So Angelo D'Ortenzio, John Evans, watch out for those two boys. But even then, you say Matthias van Erven, he's his first time out here for Williams. Maybe he could make a surprise appearance. We've seen Williams take a 1-2 in Vegas. Can they take another podium here tonight in Silverstone?
Sure, it's more than possible. We'll have to see, though, as we do have our cars heading out onto circuit. And first will be Pasquale Ranielli. And I'm not sure what's up with cars, but there's a very, very weird... it looks like It looks like the game's just broken at the rear end of Pasquale's car there. I'm hoping that fixes itself as the stream goes on. But yes, very odd indeed. But we do have cars out on track. We have Rens Thomason as well out for FER this evening. Well, FER have had a really good season. Rens has been here, I think, for 2 or 3 races so far. So I expect him to do a decent job tonight. And then also we have out on track Nelson Alves for the Williams team. So he must have been a late substitute over Ruben Pedreño.
It would seem that way, just a last-minute call, and I wonder if that will bring any sort of penalties. But what I am seeing for Pascal Renelle, Nelson Alves, and Rens Thomason and Luca Rapassa, all intermediate runs. You expect to see that in qualifying 1 as they try to save those sets of tyres for what could potentially be a Q2, Q3 appearance to the top. It gets crucial, and then a track like Silverstone, as you mentioned earlier, the home of Formula 1, 1950, Formula 1 made its appearance at this very circuit indeed. So it's certainly got the history there behind it, and Pascal Renelle sets a 1:30.1, quite a fast time, I've got to say, on intermediates.
Indeed. Let's see what... Oh! You've been kicked from the session, Corey.
I shouldn't have. I'm seeing everybody.
Oh, well, I've been kicked from the session. So
Oh, no!
it crashed.
No, you have been kicked. You have been kicked. You're the only one who's disconnecting there. If it's you have. I'm still in the session. Nelson Alves has done a 30 flat on those intermediates. Wow. It's quite good that this has happened now in qualifying 1 when they're on these intermediate runs. You're not actually missing any action. It's Luca Rapassa who's going to bring it into the pit lane, not even set that intermediate time lap. And the other drivers are just waiting, letting that clock tick down until we can get to that time where softs are going to be used. Now, the sky is a little grey. That is something that I can point out. It is a little dark and a little grey. So is weather going to be a factor later on in qualifying, potentially in Q2? We do have realistic weather settings. So, it's Great Britain. It's England. We know what it's like in summer. It's not sunny. It rains.
Indeed, and we're trying to get back in. I think I'm loaded in. But what we'll do is, while I'm trying to get everything sorted out quickly, we're going to have a quick look at the lap guide around this famous Silverstone circuit.
Hello everybody, I am former F1 esports engineer Will Gibson, taking you around the Silverstone circuit today with F1 esports driver Duncan Hoffman. We're in 7th gear for turn 1, hit the apex nicely, minimise the distance through turn 2, now braking at the start of the curve, down to 3rd for the apex, moving back to the right for loop, trying to hit the apex nicely while keeping apex speed up, open the steering wheel, get on the power and the ERS as soon as possible for the good exit onto the Wellington straight, as we're using down to 67 ERS. In towards Brooklands now, we need to be braking at just after the 50 metre board, clipping the red sausage curve on the inside, move back to the left, down to 3rd gear for Luffield, getting on the power and the ERS nice and early, moving back over to the right now for Woodcote, as we need to move back over to the left, we're using down to 55 ERS, into Cox, we're going to downshift to 7th gear to keep the revs up, using the ERS to get back up to 8th gear, now into Maggots and Beckett's, we flat for Maggots, it's flat for Beckett's, and it's a small break for Chapel, as this curve on the outside is a bottom curve. Now onto the Hangar straight, we're going to be staying to the right originally to try and keep the speed up, moving back over to left for Stowe. Use the curb on the outside, braking just after the 50, curb to rotate you as well, using all the exit curb, interval, want to brake just on the start of the curb, flicking the car in 3rd gear, flicking the car into the right hander, and coming through Tub Corner. That's a lap of Silverstone.
Hello, and we are back. Now, Nathan's just having a little bit of an issue trying to get back into the lobby. Some slight settings being tweaked on the graphical side of things, and of course, he did get kicked out. But as you can see, the standings on your screen just while we're getting back into the lobby. Not a lot going on in qualifying. Everybody's still sat there waiting down that clock. 11 minutes just under as we hit in qualifying 1, and everyone just patiently waiting it out. We've had those installation laps on the intermediates from some drivers that have allowed themselves to get a feel for the track so far and allow those setups to, make sure everything's working. We call it a technical installation lap. They test the setups and the rigs to make sure they have no technical issues. Then they can go for what will be the 26 laps of Silverstone. So again, just waiting down that clock, and you can see the race results from last time out, which we said that Ferrari 1-2 proving crucial in gaining that massive 93-point lead in the current championship. But there are still 3 rounds to go after Silverstone. Still plenty of opportunities for some teams, RHG, Red Bull, some teams to mention there, to claw back some much needed points and help them along in closing up to Ferrari, potentially stopping them in what could be another E-Series Championship trophy to add to their collection.
Indeed.
Now,
I am loading
are you
back in,
back?
Cor. I'm loading in, so hopefully things are working out a little bit better. And I'm hoping that it isn't my graphics drivers that I've killed, because I've recently installed the new Borderlands 4 game, which required me to update my graphic drivers about 3 or 4 hours ago. So I'm hoping that's not why things are looking weird, because my issue was with the graphics, everything looked really hard and stuttery, and things were like, see the same thing about 4 or 5 times. It was really weird. So hopefully it's all sorted now. I've got cars going out to the track, and the first thing I see is a car without a front wing. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's that. I've had that myself a few times. Visual bug there. What I can tell you is those Ferraris do have their nose cones.
We'll jump back to the game screen, and I'm actually curious to see that once John goes on track, if we can actually see his front wing. Oh, and it's not there. And my game is still glitched. Hey ho. Not much we can do about that, but there we are. John Evans without front wing.
Getting a little bit of side-by-side qualifying action here as we go on with one of the Williams drivers, that Mattis van Erven, going side-by-side with those Ferrari boys.
God. Hopefully everything does sort out, and I'm sorry guys that the cars look really weird. Oh, me being a perfectionist then, OT. For me, it's really bugging me. I want it to look perfect.
The stream looks fine. The stream looks absolutely fine. I'm going to be honest.
If I go on board of the car, look how there's all random particles around the wheels and the front. You can't tell me you can't notice that. Stream. Fully you see what I mean.
Is in like a haze over the tyres?
Yeah, it looks like it. And it's same for the front wing. The aerial thing at the front, whatever that thing.
Yeah,
Really
so I can sort of see it. But from a spectator standpoint, everything's running smoothly. It's just a few little, what would you say, tearing for texture tearing, splitting.
I mean, I have restarted the game and that didn't fix it. Leave it, is it? I'll refine it, ready for next time. But we have got our cars now heading out for their first official runs on the soft tyres. The first one being one of the Williams cars. It will be Matthijs van Erven heading through the final corner. Let's see what he can do here, Corey.
Absolutely, it hits that line and flat to the floor now, all the way through Abbey and Farm before you need to hit those brakes into Village. Keep it nice and tight though, you don't want to shed off too much speed and momentum, hook it around the apex before you catch yourself back around the loop, coming around the left-hand side. Now this is where you need to get that line perfect to set yourself up out of entry and get that DRS open on the Wellington Straight.
Indeed, and tyres first sector, what will it be here? A 26.964, so not the worst first sector in the world here for Matthijs as he makes his way through in towards the field. And of course, Pop's corner, very famous corner in the world of Formula 1. Him through here, it's just going to be flat out in 8th gear for Matthijs as he heads his way through. Does have a shift down to 7th, but just does keep it full throttle. And then of course through in towards Maggots and Beckett's here. Way through nicely, down to 7th, and it'll be down to 6th, and then back on the power. You make your way out of Sector 2, and it'll be a 101.819 here for Matthijs. So looking for possibly a 25.1 on this lap. But of course, that also comes down to this final sector here. For the Williams, it can do. Heading in towards the Vale chicane. Of course, late on the brakes, get the car thrown in. Then through in towards the club corner at the final part of the track. And what will it be to open things up? It'll be a 125.194.
Oh, beautiful prediction on the lap time, 25-1, and you got it in one. Angelo Di Altensio to jump ahead of that, and then John Evans to jump ahead of that. 24.925, the time to beat thus far, as more drivers come and hit that checkered flag to set their first initial times. Nelson Alves just lines up behind his teammate before Luca Rapassa separates the Ferrari and Williams, and Kian Gordondorf for Red Bull makes his presence known, jumps up into 3rd position there.
Indeed, and next we have Enzo Soom for VNT. Looking to cross the line. Where can he put that Haas car up to the line? Goes 6th fastest. A very nice lap indeed from him. And then we have Pasquale Ranielli for VA. He goes up into P5. Then shortly we have both of the R8G cars heading through into the final couple of corners as Ben Shabakonyi goes up into P4. Both McLarens got into P5 and P6. What can Togo Hardy do? He goes second fastest. A nice lap from him. And Tamas Gell goes second fastest as well. Then we have Josh Ito who goes up into the top 3. And the final car to set a lap for the first runs will be Ulash Azildrim. And that's a disappointing 19th place for the Red Bull driver who has been on the podium 3 times already this season.
Absolutely. Ulas is no stranger to those top spots, those front spots, and bringing the pressure to the Ferrari drivers. He's been well in there in the fight in the earlier rounds of the season, but no, disappointment in qualifying 1 on that first initial run. He's going to have to go out again. Now, question is, does he use another set of fresh tyres to try and help him along to get him into Q2? This is where we see drivers try and save their tyres unless they know they have a chance at getting through in qualifying. But look how close everybody is. It's literally within 0.6 of a second from P1 to P20.
Very, very close as things stand. And of course, looking at the gaps, just from 1st to 15th, it's 0.5 tenths of a second. So I think maybe the top 4 or 5 are the only cars that are safe here in this session. But very, very close things as we head through to the end of Q1. And of course, not ideal for Ulash Azildrim. Doesn't want to be in the bottom 5. I don't think has gone out in Q1 at all this season and been here pretty much every round for the Red Bull team. And then, of course, Stephen Vasso making his first appearance this evening, staying in P20 at the moment to get into the mix of things. And I don't think has done much running in a full qualifying session, so we've got to get used to that as well. Togo Hardy, I think he will be safe on his lap time. Same for Tamas Gell. Of course, Tamas, brilliant qualifier, so I think he will definitely be in the mix of things when it comes to fighting for pole position here this evening. John Evans as well seems to be quite good at this circuit. Of course, back in season 4, when we raced here last, he did take a P2 in that interesting fight with himself and Freddie Rasmussen. There was 9 cars involved in that, and it was Freddie that came out ahead of John Evans, and then Duncan Hoffland came home in 3rd for Aston Martin. That was an eventful race indeed. And then, of course, Season 3 and Season 2, where we've took part here before, Ferrari have been on the podium in both of those. So it has been a 100% podium streak for Ferrari around this circuit. So definitely lots of expectation on for those. And, of course, Angelo D'Ortenzio as well, a driver that many people will know nowadays, has been absolutely flying in the F2 Championship. I think has a 20-point lead heading into the final couple of rounds. So certainly a driver which you could put into an F1 grid and he'd probably do perfectly fine, I'd imagine.
Well, it certainly shows his mettle here in E-Series, and you know, coming up against this sort of level of competition, being up there at the top spot can certainly prove your worth for the likes of, you know, an F1 position, like you say. But currently dominating in the F2 side of things, he's looking good to help Ferrari along in their championship. John Evans, though, like you mentioned, he is very good at Silverstone. That I do know. I believe it is his home track as well, and so very comfortable here with his home crowd and his home circuit. So be expecting to see John Evans pull something out of the bag.
Indeed, and also I expect a good result here from Declan Barrett. Of course, people were watching F1 sim racing last season. He took part for the V-Carb team, the junior Red Bull team. Left the team, I think it was only a day after the sim racing season ended, but now he's joined FER. I presume while he's just looking for a new contract, looking to hopefully take part next season and, you know, get some good, prove that he does deserve a seat for the upcoming season. And of course, as goes in FER as his place to prove his worth, and another home track here for him, so I'm sure he'll do a great job here this evening. And of course, we have both of the McLarens as well, a better job than they have in the past. Of course, normally see a McLaren out in Q1 every week, whether it's a quali ban or one of them making a mistake, whereas tonight they look both quite comfortable currently, and of course still have a lap to go, but I'm sure the lap times they've set already, they've probably got a lot more time to find there, so they should be safe heading into Q2.
We need the McLarens to do something a little bit more than what they have done in the previous rounds. I mean, they're only 8th in the standings at the moment, 119 points to their name. It's not what you'd like to see McLaren shadow. I mean, they can certainly pull something out of the bag with the drivers they've got, but At the minute, 8th and 9th so far in their first initial runs, looking like maybe Silverstone could be the place to pull back some much needed points and help them along to catch up against Alpine, who are in 6th with around about a 38-point lead ahead of them. But then there's Veloce as well, your previous season champions, just separating them in 7th. So a lot of work for McLaren to do, and they're feeling a little bit more comfortable here tonight in Silverstone.
Indeed, as we do have Matthias van Erven up by a 10th in Sector 2. That could put him up into the top 5 as things stand. And when drivers down near the bottom of things are finding lots of time, that could certainly put a little bit of pressure on D'Ortenzio and Godendorp potentially, who are currently sitting up in P5 and P6 at the moment. But what can the Williams driver do? Matthias van Erven now through into the final corner, heading up to the line. Where can he go? Puts his Williams up into P3. A brilliant lap from him indeed. Then we have, I think it was Jack West who goes quickest by 1,000th of a second up to the top of the timings for McLaren. Then we have one of the VA cars, that's Luca Rapassa, only managing P10 as Nelson Alves will be out of the session for Williams. Has decided to bail into the pit lane. Skither only manages P15 for FRT. He could be in big danger here as Shabakonya goes up into 3rd. What about Ulash Azildrim? Keen to see what he can manage as we make our way through into the final couple of corners as Thomason goes up into P11 for FVR. Keane could be in a little bit of danger. Enzo Soom is out of the session as we head up to the line. As Ildrim goes up into P6 as that will be Keane going up on the cusp here of potentially going out. It's down to Stephen Vassar up to the line, and Keane survives by 1 place. Very close indeed as Vassar unfortunately will be out in Q1.
Vassar is out, but another surprise, Luca Rapassa is also out in Q1. Not something that you expect to see in any sort of races. He's just fell out. Akira Gordon-Dorp just remains safe. Nelson Alves, Enzo Soom, Skaza? I can't remember. Skither, Stephen Vassar, and Luca Rapassa all just falling a little bit too short from where they wanted to be in qualifying 1. But it looks like Jack West with the fastest time thus far. Beautiful lap to pull out there by 1,000th of a second.
Indeed, a great lap there by Jack West to go to the top of things before you head into Q2, and that certainly will give a little bit of confidence here, I think, to Jack West, knowing that he has got the pace to produce some brilliant lap time. But now heading towards Q2, and here it's the bottom 5 once again being knocked out. So P11 down to P15 will not be going through to Q2. Lots of pressure on these drivers because, like we saw, the gap between the top 15 was just over a 10th. So we are going to get some big surprises here, I think, about drivers that, you know, sometimes it can just take one mistake in one corner to lose your chance of going through into Q3. So the laps that they do, especially on their final runs, have got to be pretty much perfect here.
Yeah, I've got to agree there. Like, with Jack West finding the time, track evolution is also going to play a factor in helping them find that extra time. So being on the track at the right time when the conditions are absolutely perfect is crucial for these drivers. But what I have noticed is in qualifying 3, some of those final runs don't do the drivers justice. Their first runs or second runs in Q3 seem to be the faster times in some of the earlier rounds that I've seen.
Indeed. We do have a few cars going out on track to first run away. Of course, many of them will be on a used set of tyres. A couple of them might be on a new set, such as Ian Godendorp, of course, only used on set in Q1 earlier on. Likes of John Evans, Tyler Hardy, Tamas Gall as well. They probably are all on a set of tyres. Jens Thomason was one of those who used 2 sets in Q1, so he'll probably set now just because burn them all up before we head into Q3. Make our way through Cops with the FER driver. Both of them up into the top 15. That is, well, seen all season, but yet again, it just proves that they are easily the best of the teams, as only one of the FRTs are through, and both of the VNTs were out each one. So FER are looking to prove once again they are the best community team in the scene. Of course, people say VA are one, but I don't class them as the Academy of Veloce. That doesn't stay in community. So people can argue and say they disagree, but yes, we'll have to.
See, this is the thing. I've had the same discussion with some people. I say I follow your view. I wouldn't see them as a community team. I mean, they've won an E-Series championship. You know, it's It's not like one of those smaller teams that are fighting for midfield or barely fighting for P3 in the championship, but they've taken a championship in E-Series. So you can't say that they're not championship contenders. They are worthy of it. I'd say they're a fully fledged esports team rather than a community team.
But it's all down to people's opinions, I suppose. But we have got Rens Thomason on a lap, heading through in towards Woodcuts and then down towards Copse Corner. And we'll have to see what he can manage here on this lap as he makes his way through in towards Copse now. Yet again, just it's a flat corner. Oh, and that was a bit of a twitch there. That was certainly not the way he would have been hoping to take Copse as he makes his way through in towards Maggots and Beckett's, of course. Yet again, in this game, quite easy to do because it's pretty much just downshift and you use more engine braking rather than actually braking using that brake pedal as we head in towards Stowe Corner. Once again, light tap on the brakes, down to 6th gear, get the car turned in nicely. And of course, heading down towards Club Corner. Let's see what can Rens Thomason do as he makes his way through into the final couple of corners now. Will it be into the 24s here for Rens? No, it's a 25.4, which tells me he's probably on a used tyre.
Yeah, suspect as much as we see some other drivers also potentially on those used tyres dive into the pit lane, not happy with their laps. The likes of John Evans following suit of Tycho Hardy, who's I think remained in the pit lane. But we have some more drivers crossing the line. Gabor Santos and Declan Barrett also on used tyres with those lap times. Ulas Zildrim 25.1, faster than what we've seen thus far on initial bankers, but doing very well to take the fastest so far on a used set. So that tells me that he does have the pace to potentially break into the 24s. I am suspecting everybody is on a used set from qualifying 1 here. They want to try and minimise how much rubber they have to use in these early minutes and save the tyres when they really, really need them. So a 25.1 already, fastest on the used tyres. It's a good lap to get out there already.
Yeah, not bad at all from Ulash. Of course, there's a little bit of a quite high pressure moment at the end of Q1 when he was down in 19th, but I think, yeah, again, it would have just been a silly mistake somewhere around the track, and of course, you know, from another lap, straight up into the top 6. No worries at all for Ulash. As, of course, we are on board here with Kian, who took a podium last time out in Spain in a very interesting ending where rain made a part to play, and of course, we had that interesting dive bomb, which ended up in 5 cars being off at turn 1 as well on the opening lap. It was certainly an interesting race, but of course the top 3 was both of the Ferraris, John Evans and Ismail Fassi on that occasion, and King Godendorp as well, reigning off that podium. And Red Bull, once again, another podium to the name this season. They have had a really good record so far. And as we just see Gabor Chantos as well head into the pit lane, of course, had a really good opening round. Australia, I think it was P4 in qualifying, got P7 in the race. And since then hasn't had the best of things. But hopefully tonight could be a night here for Gabor because his pace has looked rather decent in that Aston Martin.
Yeah, he's certainly pulling his wits together, to say the least, to try and produce a good result for his team, FRT. They certainly could do with the points, but is Gabor the one to bring them the points here and tonight? We see more drivers now start to take to the pit lane to get their initial runs done and dusted. We've seen 5 drivers do that already. But it's anybody's game so far. It's Ben Savaconye who will lead us away with his initial outlap. Now, what I'd like to know, are those fresh tyres or are those used?
We'll have to see once they set the laps. I think once we get the laps on the board, we'll be able to know what tyres they are on. Yes, we'll be able to see what lap times they can do. As, of course, Bench will be first, and then we have both of our Ferraris as well, heading in towards Brooklands Corner. Both John and Angelo. Then behind them we've got Matthias van Erven. The Williams, who's had a really good event so far, of course, has up into that top 5 near the end of Q1. That certainly is the sort of lap times that Williams need. Of course, they're only 16 points back from P2 in the standings, and they sit in P4. So lots of opportunity tonight if they can get a couple of decent results on the board. Of course, Nelson Alves only P17 in Q1, so he's going to have a lot of work to do to score some decent points for the team. But if Matthias can get up into the top 10, that's at least 20 or 30 points being scored for him. So definitely got a big chance, but needs to make it through Q2 first.
Still on board with Ben Sabaconi. He started his first initial flying lap here in qualifying 2. Burned a bit of the battery off, and he's now getting himself back around village and swinging it back around the loop before he sets himself up to be DRS aided out of Aintree down the Wellington Straight, hooking it tight to those apexes, trying to keep it nice and straight and under control before he gets to Brooklands and Luffield corners, famous for catching you some understeer and slipping you running out wide, and of course coming out of Luffield towards Woodcourt. There's a gravel trap, and that will slow you right down, hinder all that momentum you tried to gain out of Luffield, and slow you down before you get your run down towards Cops Corner. Bit of traffic, but moved out of the way as the Red Bull driver from the Alpine of Benson. On we go towards the more famous corners in Formula 1 history, Maggots, Beckett's and the Chapel Curve.
Indeed, and we'll see what Ben Shabakoni can do in Sector 2 as he makes his way through. So 101.668, that's not a bad middle sector split here for Ben Shabakoni as he makes his way into Stowe Corner. We'll have to see what the Alpine driver can do. Of course, it was a very poor round last time for Alpine, who unfortunately had both of their cars being tackled off track at turn number 1. And yes, that definitely didn't end well for those guys. But what can Bench do for his first lap of the session? Goes quickest, it's a 124.970. I think one of the fastest times we've seen so far this evening. As I want to see who's next to cross line. We have both of our Ferraris, so we'll go on board here with John Evans. A couple of tenths ahead of Ben Shabakoni in the middle sector, so that's definitely going to help him here. Heading down into the chicane. Makes his way through nicely, then through in towards Club Corner at the final part of the circuit at turn number 19. Up to the line, what will it be for Evans? Goes quickest at 24.706. Angelo next. Can he go quicker? No, about half a tenth down from his teammate. Slots into P2. Then we have Matthias Van Erven, who didn't set a lap there. It would have been a 25.0, but unfortunately had an invalidation. Jack West goes third. Both of the R8Gs go fourth and fifth. And then let's see what Pasquale Ranieri can do here for Veloce Academy, heading through into the final corner himself. What can it be for Pasquale? Will it be a top 10? He goes third, a brilliant lap from the VA driver.
Well, there we also saw Simon Lekomsky go to P6. He's now being dropped down to P9, coming towards the danger zone roundabout now. But I don't know. He's now in the danger zone, but he's still got plenty of time to produce another lap for McLaren. We saw Jack West take fastest time in qualifying 1. And as the timer starts to tick down, will we see a McLaren take that top spot once again?
Well, we'll have to see. And Declan Barrett, a brilliant lap in P2 for FVR. What can Ulashes Hildrim do? Up to the line for Red Bull, goes quickest, a 24.674 for the Red Bull driver. Certainly will be happy with that one. And then, of course, everybody else now will be heading back into the pits as they get prepared to go for another lap in this Q2 session. But I've got to say, so far, brilliant by Declan Barrett, Pasquale Ranieri, Jack West, all up in the top 10 for their teams. And, of course, FER sit P5 in the standings, VA P7 and McLaren P8. So for Veloce Academy and McLaren, top 10 is probably needed for both of those teams. And then, of course, reigning off the top 10 currently is going to be Kian Gerdendorp in the Red Bull. So the top 10 is currently a Red Bull sandwich. And then the bottom 5, we have Gabor Chontos, Tamas Gal, Szymon Lekomsky, Ben Shabakoni, and then Matthias Van Erven. And I've got to say, the biggest surprise of all there is Tamas Gal. I mean, he's normally up in the top end of things in PCF1. So he should definitely be in the top 10 here, I'd have to say.
Let's look at close qualifying actually is. It's just a few tenths. It's the finest of margins. It's one bad corner from you and getting into qualifying 1 and qualifying 3. It's that close. This is the level that we're getting to here. So Tamas Gal, maybe just having one little moment in the sector has cost him the time that is worthy to keep him in that top 10.
Indeed. I mean, look at the gap there between Tamas and Angelo. Not even a tenth there between those two. That's P5 down to P12. So I don't think anybody is safe here. Maybe the top 2 or 3. But I think Josh Edo down, they've all got to go out for a lap here because they are not going to be safe. And I mean, look at Kian earlier on, was P5 in Q1. He made it through in 15th barely, when you've got even less drivers looking to make it through into the top spots. You know, you can't be risking it from 5th place. So I think they've all got to go out from 4th down here in this session. But of course, lots of pressure is on those in the bottom 5 now because they've got to find time to... You know, they've got to find all of them at least a tenth to get up into the top 4, top 5, but then find even more because everybody else will be improving as well. So There's lots of pressure on those guys down at the bottom end of things. And then, of course, especially Matthias van Erven, who's just got to get a lap time on the board. Never mind just a lap time, but want to get him into the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, having that early invalidation is going to make you feel a little bit grim. He had the time to get himself worthy of a top 10 position, but just ran a little bit too close to those white lines, and now he's going to mean everything for Matthias van Erven. Sorry, I keep butchering the names a little bit. For Matthias van Erven, it's going to need one lap out of hell, not a bad out of hell, a lap out of hell, to guarantee that Q3 position.
Indeed, as the first car out will be Jack West here for McLaren. Of course, has had a nice evening so far, topping Q1. Currently sitting P7 here in Q2. And, you know, on some races, P7 might be fine to get through into Q3 at the stage we're in at the moment. But here, it certainly is not. He's only, 40, 50 thousandths away from that bottom 5. So he can't be risking anything here. So he's got to go out for a lap. Got to get something on the board as he makes his way through in towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And then the final car to go out will be, I believe, John Evans. No, it will be Angelo D'Ortenzio in 5th place. He also will have to go out for a lap. And surprisingly, John Evans goes out, but around him, Ulash Azildrim and Declan Barrett, they choose to stay in the pit. So is John Evans just looking to get another good lap on the board, or possibly does he think that they could still be at risk?
With them choosing to retire, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they feel a little bit too confident, feeling a little bit too safe. Maybe they know what it's going to take to produce a lap time worthy of a 24.6 or even a 24.5. So maybe they feel like those bottom 5 drivers are not going to quite get there and will just fall ever short. And maybe the worst that they will see is P4, P5 in this Q2. It's, you know, these drivers know more than I certainly do in terms of qualifying pace, so I'll take their word for it and go on their judgment. They feel safe enough to retire, so we'll see how the end of qualifying 2 happens.
Indeed, and here is Szymon Lekomski heading down towards turn 7 at Brooklands. Is currently in a little bit of danger in P13, and he's up by 66 thousandths in Sector 1, but of course still has Sector 2 and 3 to go, and we have had some information to say that Declan and Ulas both used 2 sets of tyres in Q1, so they need to spare a set ready for Q3, hence why they have retired and not chosen to continue on with this session. But I think first and third, it'd take a lot of unluckiness for them to drop out here, because they've, out of everybody, still got a decent gap back to 11th. So, I mean, they would be very, very shocked to think if they got knocked out.
It would be a huge shock to the system, definitely, for those two. They're not expecting to be dropped out of it, with especially being first and third, like you say, the fastest so far in qualifying 2. And with those times, they're certainly comfortable times. They're not slow lap times, no real risk of being dropped, unless you don't have the tyres to defend anything, which they don't. So now they're just sort of sitting and praying as Jack West stays up to, well, just dropped down to P8 now as Szymon Lekomski goes up into P6. So he's out of the danger zone, but is it enough to guarantee safe? Ben Sabakonya goes up to P4. Tiger Hardy in 10th. Rens Tomassen, he's out of it. Pasquale Ranelli, he's now approaching that danger zone as Tomas Gal goes up to 7th.
Indeed, and then Matthias van Erven will be out of Q2, will not be making his way through into Q3. Josh Edo goes quickest with a .626 as Kean Godendorp also is out of this second qualifying session. The same can go for Tygo Hardy as Pasquale Ranieri goes up into 6th place. Can Gabor Chontos knock Jack West out of Q2? No. He stays 14th fastest, didn't find time in that second qualifying session. But there we have it, as somebody went quickest, I think, at the last moment there, but I'm not sure who that was.
No, that's unfortunate for Gabor Santos, though. He was favoured to have some pace for tonight from yourself, Nathan. It's just fallen a little bit short.
Indeed, but also Kean Godendorp for Red Bull. That is also a surprise, because we know Kean is very good in qualifying, and, you know, look at the gaps there. Jack West to Tygo Hardy, 2 1,000ths of a second. I think that's not just about pure skill. That's a little bit of luck involved, I think, isn't there?
Yeah, that's just, wow. Well, you can't make things up like when the pace gets that close. It's It's literally just the slightest margin of difference in throttle or braking on one corner. When the time gets that close, it is literally identical laps near enough, by one slight little adjustment to one driver's line. That is incredible to see. And now we get ready for qualifying 3, the 10 driver 12-minute shootout for pole position. I'm excited for this one, Nathan. It's been very, very close here in Silverstone.
Indeed. I mean, we had Jack West topping Q1, Angelo D'Ortenzio topping Q2. We had Josh Ido in the mix. We had, I think it was Kamashkal at one point near the top. We've had John Evans near the top, Ulash Azildrim, Declan Barrett at times. So, this is one of those where normally you look at Q1 and Q2 and think, well, that person's been really quick. They're probably going to do it. But here, I don't think that's the case. I think everybody so far in this session here has proven that they can be at the top. So, we're going to have a right battle here for pole position. The first car to go out will be Jack West. Of course, currently sits P2, but that means absolutely nothing at the moment. So, we'll have to see what the McLaren driver can do, but has definitely chosen to go out quite early in this session.
This has got to be a used tyre run just to get himself tuned in and locked in, ready for when he can go full push on that final set of fresh, soft tyres. So, I don't know, everybody else is just playing it safe and weighing it out a little bit. Like you said, we had Ulas Zildrim and Declan Barrett only having one set of tyres remaining. They used 2 sets of tyres in qualifying 1. So they are going to have to wait it out for the final closing minutes and pray that they can produce a lap worthy of pole position. I mean, for Ulas Zildrim, it's no far-fetched feat either. He is a driver that could certainly produce a pole position. He's podium after podium earlier rounds on, and he's been fighting the Ferraris in those earlier rounds for quite a while, I've got to say now. So certainly a driver capable of a pole position time, but he's only got one set of tyres to produce it with.
Indeed, and Ulash has always been the best of the rest. Has never been able to get into the top 2, but he's always been that close. And I think today could certainly be an opportunity for him to go that one step further and possibly put that Red Bull onto pole position. As Jack West now just heading his way through into Stoke, and we'll see if he actually does go for a lap. Because we've seen in the past, I've never known why, drivers decide to think, actually, you know what, we're going to go for an out lap and just go back in the pits and not do the lap. So we'll see. Does Jack West go for the lap? Yes, he will. So he heads into the final couple of corners now. Start off this qualifying session. There's a couple of cars just heading out of the pit lane, but they shouldn't interfere that much with Jack on this lap as he makes his way down towards turn number 1. Let's see what the McLaren can do to open up the session.
Flat to the floor, out of Farman towards Village Curve, now on the brakes, trying to hook it into the apex, running a little bit wider than you'd like to see before he needs to collect himself back around the loop, hooking the apex once again, but running extremely wide to open up the corner out of entry and get that rear wing open down towards Brooklands, where you need to really fire the car into the left-hander, pray that it's going to grip up, but don't take too much of the apex. You have 2 red sausage curves ready to unsettle that car, hit you with that understeer, which will completely unsettle you for Lovefield and Woodcote when you're trying to maintain all your momentum for that famous Cops corner. But for now, he's looking very squared away and ready to rock and roll as he gets going in Sector 2 and ready for the most famous sets of corners in F1 history, Magnus, Beckett's and Chapel. Flat to the floor, now hits the downshift, coming back around Beckett's, and then as you come to the Chapel curve, downshift again to 6, flat to the floor, get that rear wing open up to 7th, burn a bit of the battery, but not too much because you're going to need it once again, and hits that Sector 2 split.
Indeed, and then into Stowe corner. Let's see what Jack West can do through here. Quite nicely taken there by Jack, and then of course into the final couple of corners, into the Vale chicane, then in towards Club at the final corner. A little bit of a hop over the curb through up to the line. What will it be here for Jack West? It's a 25.163 to kick things off. The next starter lap will be, I believe, the Alpine of Bench Shabakonyi. He has had a decent evening so far, has Bench, and well, I'm sure I would like to put it onto pole position to top that one off so far.
Yeah, but very much needed for the Alpines. You know, they're currently being topped by FAI. You mentioned being the best on the community scene as evidently shown in standings and by the drivers that they bring to the track. Declan Barrett has made it into qualifying 3, but so has Pascal Iranelli. So keep an eye out for those two from your community teams to see where they're going to place themselves in this top 10 stack of drivers for the pole shootout. But for now, Ben Sabaconye gets himself going back around Love Field now, and can the Alpine make it to the top?
Heads through in towards the pink to the right at Woodcuts and then down the national pitch straight in towards Cops Corner. Of course, seen all this evening flat through Cops. Some drivers choose to go in 7th, some choose to stay in 8th as you make your way through there. Then in towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. I've got to say, a brilliant place to watch racing. I stood here at the British GT back in April, and I've got to say the view from the exit of Beckett's is absolutely magnificent. So if anybody goes to the European Le Mans Series on Sunday, I'd recommend going over to the backside of the circuit. But back to the action, as Ben Shamaconi has unfortunately invalidated that lap, so he won't be setting that lap time there. Next to go across the line will be Pasquale Ranieri heading through into Stowe Corner. Let's see what the VA man can do. Of course, has had a really good Q1 and Q2. I'm sure he'd love to be up and around that top 5 here in Q3, would the Veloce Academy driver.
So it hits that checkered flag, goes fastest so far. Now, I did stay on board with Ben to see what sort of pace he would have been setting if he didn't invalidate that lap. Well, there would have been a 25.088 from Ben, so he still would have only been P2 and jumped by Pasquale Ranieri. But who's next towards the line? It is the McLaren's teammate who just falls behind him by 0.06 of a second before Angelo Di Hortensio jumps half a second clear and takes pole.
What a lap there. John Evans goes quicker, a 5.18 there by John Evans. The two Ferraris look very quick as things stand. Of course, that makes me think Pasquale Ranieri was definitely on a set of the used tyres, as Declan Barrett had an invalidation. It would have been a 5.94, would have been in a 10th of the two Ferraris. Then we have Josh Edo, who of course has had a really good Q1 and 2 himself. Up to the line, where can he go? Goes third fastest, only 20 thousandths away from Angelo D'Ortenzio. Then we have Tamas Gal in the Red Bull. What can he manage? Was actually a little bit down in Sector 2, it seems. Could only be only a 0.7, goes fourth. What about Ulash Azildrim? He will go up into P4 with a 0.660. So, as things stand currently, Ben Shabakonu will go back in. Declan Barrett will have to go back in because he made a mistake on his lap and presuming validated. And then the two McLarens and Ranieri were all on a used tyre.
Once again, it's looking like another Ferrari 1-2 lockout for qualifying. You saw it last week. Can you see it happen again this week here in Silverstone? Now, I've noticed that Q1, the sky was grey. Q2, we had a bit of sun. Q3, the sky is grey. So, it's a bit... Are we going to see some weather? Because we don't get weather updates here in the Commonsbury. Are we going to see a bit of a spicy action towards the end? Is that it for qualifying? Is that all she wrote? Is it going to rain a little bit? Don't tease us with grey skies.
I mean, I wish it would, but I don't think it's going to rain. I think it'll stay probably dry here this evening as we go on board here with Tamas Gal, as Ulash Zildjian was also just heading back down to pit lane to, of course, strap on a new set of tyres and then go for final run of the session. But Ferrari, once again, looking dominant is the word. Of course, they took a 1-2 back in Spain in qualifying and then converted that into a 1-2 in the race. I mean, if they could do the same here this evening, I think the championship might as well already be wrapped up, because they already lead by 93 points to Red Bull, who only have one car in the top 10. Third place is R8G, who also only have one car in the top 10. So, this is, yet again, another fantastic opportunity for Ferrari to blow the points out of the water.
I've got to agree with you on that. Now, looking at this, I don't think Ulash Zildjim's going to improve on his time. If that was his fresh tyre run, we know he's only got one set. He had to use 2 in qualifying 1. So for Red Bull, I think that's all she wrote. So Ferrari, again, feeling very comfortable. Tamas Gal, if he's got another set of tyres, now would be the time to use them to put the pressure on those Ferrari drivers. The only other team capable of putting any sort of charge on their championship and any sort of halt to the Ferrari dominance, like you said, 93 points lead. If they mop up a 1-2 again here tonight, you might as well say it's done and dusted and give Ferrari the championship already. It's getting to that level, and R8G and Red Bull may be feeling a little bit desperate now.
Indeed. We do have cars now making their way out onto track, and the first one being Jack West. And I've got to say, Corey, I said it, I don't think it'd rain, but it is getting quite dark. But I think the fact that cars are still going out as normal, I think we probably are going to be. Yes, it certainly is starting to get very grey here. Guys over Silverstone. Of course, we have Jack, Shimon, have John Evans as well going out onto track. Of course, currently our pole position man, of course, did a great job in Silverstone last time we was here back in Season 4, finishing second runner-up to Freddie Rasmussen. Then, of course, last time out here in E-Series on a whole, Spain got P2 there as well. So it seems that podiums are looking quite a possibility here for John Evans, and I'm sure a pole position will go quite nicely with it.
He can't count out his teammate, Angelo D'Artento. Either way, I reckon it's going to be a Ferrari, a Scarlet Red Ferrari, lining up that front row. It just seems to be the drivers to watch out for. I mean, Alpine certainly have done well bringing Josh Edo to the table to help along in that sense. Has got the pace to potentially put a halt to another Ferrari 1-2 dominated race. But so far in qualifying, he's just falling a little bit short, and it's not even by a lot, just hundredths of a second. And he's going to be kicking himself that he can't find that.
Yeah, definitely, because sometimes it is the smallest mistake, like something we wouldn't notice on screen, but the drivers do it. They think, oh, I've lost half a tenth there. We wouldn't notice it. And that's the worst part, because it is such silly little mistakes which cost this 20 thousandths of a lap time and could cost Josh a chance at being on the front row. But of course, all drivers now have one chance to go once more and find that extra time that they need. And the first car to go out on track will be Jack West in the McLaren. What can he do? Of course, needs to be up in that top 5, because McLaren down in 8th, that's not really where they should be, I don't think.
Definitely. It's not like you see esports teams down the bottom of standings unless it's a full esports dominated grid. We have community teams in here, and at the minute McLaren Shadow being shown up a little bit, but Jack West has found some time in Sector 1, just under a tenth as he gets going out of Luffield and through towards Woodcote now. Needs to find some more time in Sector 2, needs to find a lot more time if he wants to try and challenge those front 3 drivers, at least 0.6 of a second, but it's going to be one hell of a lap to produce that time for Jack West. He's now coming towards the lovely Magnus Beckett's and Chapel Curve. Even if you're not competing at this level, it still feels amazing to drive that, even at a slower pace. He's 2.5 tenths up so far, still not enough for what could be a chance at pole, but he's looking to be at best P5, P6.
Indeed, so this could still be a brilliant lap for Jack. I think it's similar to what Josh Edo did in the middle sector as he makes his way now through into the final corner on the circuit at Club. What can Jack West do for McLaren? Goes 5th fastest, a 6.68 for Jack West. His teammate Lekomsky next to cross the line. Where can he go? Goes up into P6, and then we have Josh Edo. No, it's not. It's going to be Ben Shabakonyi next to cross the line. Goes 4th fastest for the Alpine team. Then it will be John Evans. Can he extend that pole gap? He can. A 3.95. What a lap by John Evans to now put the gap between himself and his teammates at over a tenth of a second. Next is Josh Edo heading through into the Val Chicane, then in towards Club Corner. Can he try and take that pole away from the Ferrari? No. Goes second quickest. Then we have Tamas Gal finding a couple of tenths in the middle sector. Where can he go? Goes into 3rd fastest. Then it will be Declan Barrett for FVR. They would love to get up into the top 5 with the FVR community team. Through into Club Corner. What can Barrett do with that RB? Goes 5th fastest. Then we have Pasquale Ranielli. Would he like to get into the top 5? I'm sure he would. To the line, stays 10th fastest. Then it's down to Angelo D'Ortenzio, the teammate of John Evans, stays in P4. And then I think it will be top 5 there for Ulash Azildrim. But what a lap by John Evans, a 0.395. Absolutely insane by the Ferrari driver.
Absolutely. Beautiful lap, much needed, and it's not a Ferrari 1-2 lockout as Josh Edo can slap that Alpine up there to put the pressure on. And we mentioned earlier, Tamas Gal, normally a good qualifier, proves again that he is a very good qualifier, lines up in 3rd, and D'Ortenzio just falling short of that by 5 thousandths of a second before he could make a little bit of a charge and help his teammate against Josh Edo on this race start. Ulas Zildrim struggling with tyre management, but still managed to get that 5th place, with Declan Barrett doing well for FVR, still getting in 6th. What a qualifying we've had there, and well done to the McLarens actually. They've still got 2 drivers into that top 10.
Indeed, and before we of course head into the race, we have to have our mandatory lobby restart, which we're going to do now. And if we didn't, we would have had a full wet start. That is a shame indeed. So the rain was coming, Corby, just not quite for the end of Q3. But of course, this season is brought to you by SRC Sim Racing Centre. Of course, it's great to have them alongside us for season 6 of eSeries. So of course, we're going to have a quick word with SRC, and we'll be back with you very, very shortly. Right, and we are back, and I'm going to try and sort out my settings so we don't have that stupid, weird, like hazy graphic over the cars and random little particles. And then Corey's going to get the lobby set up, hopefully, so we can get quickly into the racing action. But I've got to say, a brilliant start to the evening. Of course, qualifying very close. John Evans and Josh Edo only, I think, what, about 29 thousandths between the two. Then both of them have nearly a tenth back to P3, being Tamashgal. So definitely lots of pressure on everybody else behind. Of course, heading into the race, they've got to make sure they can keep up with the performance they've got, because it's very easy to make mistakes in a race, drop back a couple of positions, and then boom, your chance of going for a win is over. And we know, Corey, that in this game, overtaking is quite difficult because of the dirty air, slipstream not being that overpowered. So those mistakes that you make and losing a spot here or there is really crucial for those final couple of laps. So you've got to make sure that if you're at the front, you stay there.
Yeah, these first opening laps are critical because the tyre wear as well is absolutely appalling. Trying to follow in the dirty air, using more of the tyre, burning away that vital rubber. It comes to a point where you can only just follow the car ahead with how the understeer starts to affect you. So overtaking in the first couple of laps is crucial because then it's all tyre management. Stay where you are, don't lose time, and then pit stop strategies seem to be the denominating factor between race victory and race disaster.
Yeah, certainly. I think, as always, pit stops are so, they can be so detrimental to your race if you pit at the wrong time. Sometimes it can be one lap too early, one lap too late, and that can be your race over in some cases. So, the drivers have to make sure they pit at the perfect time. And I'm sure they would have done lots of practice during the week and just seen what the best lap to pit on. There we go, I'll get my words out. And then, of course, there's been many previous league races at the top level around Silverstone, so they'll look at that as well, and we'll see sometimes if a driver's gone for an undercut and it's worked, they can think, right, we could try that undercut strategy, see if that can work for us. There's lots of things that the drivers can look at in terms of strategy, but we'll have a quick look at the results from last time as well while we quickly get everything sorted out. And of course, it was a 1-2 by Ferrari. Absolutely brilliant performance by Ismail Fassi and John Evans, and it was Keane Godendorp, of course, unfortunately knocked out in Q2. Was in P3 last time out, and then we had Gregory Prajibal, brilliant result for Veloci Academy in 4th, and Rens Thomason rounding off the top 5. I think another thing to note as well was that we had Enzo Soom up in the top 7. VNT's best result by a mile, really good for those guys. Then, of course, it was also a bit of a disaster before RHG. They kind of pitted on the wrong lap and onto the wrong tyre. Instead of pitting onto inters, they went onto mediums, and that didn't quite work. So unfortunately, they finished right at the back of things with Xander Van Dijk and DNFing on lap. Was a rather interesting Grand Prix, that is so to say, and we have got 18 people in, Corey, so not long before you can start looking to figure out who's where on the grid.
Already started with that I can say. So I've started to getting people into the average positions of where they're going to be. So yeah, I'm getting there with it. When we get a full grid, I can finally line everybody up where they need to go. But I've roundabout got the top 6 or 7 setting their grid orders where they should be. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
I mean, I'm glad I have to stream now because it means I don't have to have the pain of hosting the lobby. So yeah, you can have all the painful work to do. We have got everybody in, I believe. So that now means we can get the grid sorted, we can get everybody readied up, and we can head through the race. So probably 3 or 4 minutes maximum, I'd say, as I did see someone in the chat asking how much time before the race starts. So yeah, too long at all to get underway. I've got Josh Eden, a fond driver, in the lobby. And of course, guys, we are live on Twitch today because I thought we'd give it a test again. I haven't done it for a while. It's been a couple of seasons since I went live on Twitch, and I'm hoping if anybody's watching over on the other side of the sea, that everything is running perfectly fine. Because it is my end anyway, but of course I don't get to see, if everything's working fine because I haven't got a million tabs open. So yeah, hopefully all is working. Corey, how we were looking with the lobby?
Double checking everybody's in order. Josh Evans on Paul, John Evans and Paul, Josh Edu, P2, Tomascal, Hortensio, Elas. Yeah, just going through it all, just double checking, and then I think we are good to go. Pascal Ranelli, yes, and then from 11 to 15th, Tycho, Gordon, Dort, Rens Tomasin, Gabor, and Mathis van Erven. Then the bottom 5 being Luca Rapassa, Stephen Vasso, Scather. How do you say his name again? Skither, Enzo Soom, and Nelson Alves. We are good to go.
Well, there we are. Thanks, Corey, for reading out the grid as well. That means I can kind of start to remember who was where since Q1. But of course, another poor round for VNT, isn't it? Especially in qualifying. They start 17th and 20th. They've got a lot of work to do, that is safe to say. But hopefully, for those guys, they can try and work their way forward. Of course, they're probably going to need a little bit of carnage race if they want to try get up into the top 10 or even the top 15 VNT. So we'll have to see what they can do. I have heard, though, that this track is normally quite good for Stephen Vasso. So maybe we do get to see good things from him in the race. But have everybody sorted out in their position. We need Ulash and Josh to pick their car so they don't get put in the wrong car. Then, Corey, we can actually do away with racing.
Well, if they've not picked a car, let me just double check that it doesn't change the grid because I've put them in position and let's see. So who didn't pick the cars?
Ulash and Josh. They haven't picked their car yet.
Well, hopefully we don't see Josh in a Red Bull and Ulash in an Alpine, but they are in their respective positions. So we'll see how that goes out in the end.
Yeah, because if it's only one driver, it's normally quite fine because it will give them that only car. But when there's two of them, the chances are they could end up getting swapped. Look, because Josh has picked his car, and I'm sure Ulash will follow suit shortly. And then, Corey, it'll be race time. We can get underway for racing. And I'm sure, Corey, because you're the host, you will have the honour of telling them all to ready up. So
I have told them, let's go in a little comical way. So whether they're actually paying attention to the Discord or not is how do I ping them?
We can't. We don't have the role to ping them.
Fantastic. I was going to go shout to them, but I guess we can go. If they see that, we are starting to get ready. I'm starting to see the green ticks. We're starting to get green lights. So let's see. Everybody ready up. Let's go. Engineers, tell your drivers, press the green button.
Yes. Ready up. Not that hard. They are doing so. They've listened to us finally. So get underway for the race very, very shortly. And Corey, what are you expecting going into this? Ignoring weather, if we just see it's a normal dry race, what normally would you expect? I think weather is always a question mark, but it's not. Normally it's dry, isn't it?
Yeah, from what I've seen so far in Silverstone on this game alone, even with the dirty air playing a factor, I feel like Silverstone is a place where we may get quite a bit of action. One bad run out of Maggots will open a door for overtaking down the hangar straight towards Store. One bad line into Brooklands opens an inside line for drivers to sweep it in. Then you've got the switchback around Lovefield. There's so many places here in Silverstone you can make a move. That dirty air could catch one driver out, open plenty of opportunities for many more to slip on through. So this one could certainly be one to watch for the season.
Indeed, and we are now loading through into the session, of course. Once again, a big thank you to SRC, Sim Racing Centre, for being our sponsor. No, Season 6 of E-Series, yes. Because without those guys, we would not be here today. They funded, I think, 3/4 of the prize pool so that we could actually run the events. Big thanks to Gorip, Tom, etc., etc. And yes, hopefully, we'll be back for Season 7 whenever that happens. I'm hoping it's not next game, because the way the game's going so far, Corey, I don't think we'll bother coming back for Season 7 or 5.
I don't know, it seems to be losing interest and losing quite a bit of the peak drivers, and it's just the way the thing is, like with Dirty, it's so difficult to race. It is so hard to race. You're going for 25 to 30 laps just for one opportunity at the end of the race to potentially take position and take the victory. You're asking a lot of these drivers to try and keep up the focus and the concentration without being caught out by this dirty air. But they're here, they're competing, and we thank them all for it. So hopefully we do see a Season 7 on this game cycle. But like you say, Nathan, the interest is slowly starting to slip away with just the way that how difficult it actually is to race on this game.
Indeed. I'm hoping that we can get some information on the weather. I've asked Yona, and he says very dry. All dry, says Michaeli. So that means no rain coming into this one, unless they've both tricked us with the same ideas, but I doubt it. Corey, take it away.
Absolutely, we're 3, 4, 5 lights. The lights are lit, the grid is hot and ready, and we are rock and roll. Go, go, go. Beautiful getaway for John Evans, but Josh Edu not caught out by the slightest. In fact, Tomas Gal is the one who's under pressure from Angelo Di Hortensio from behind. Di Hortensio having a beautiful start, but now here comes Ulas Zildrim to look to go the long way around. Can he make it on 1? Can he make it on 2? He's certainly going to bring the fight to the Ferrari. He's side by side, because this is where the championship battle certainly stems from. Further back, it's 2 by 2 by 2. It's Noah's Ark as they come through out of Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. No DRS this lap, but we still see Angelo and Ulas still battling at it. Inside line for Ulas, which will now switch to the inside line for Angelo. Will the Ferrari pull out on top, as this seems to be the beneficial line, but there's slight wibbles and wobbles, slight contact between the two, and it will be the Ferrari who has to slip behind that Red Bull and lose out on that position. Ulas taking advantage from the start and keeping the pressure on the Scarlet Red Ferraris, but now may lose out another position. Keep your eyes on Jack West. He's made a bit of a charge from P8 to P6 already off this race start.
Indeed, and Jack was going for a move into Maggots and Beckett's, and that normally doesn't end too well. Luckily, they didn't go side by side into that corner, and they continue on in P5 and P6. And of course, a poor start for both cars that started on the hard tyres, that being Tycho Hardy and Ben Shabakonyi. Both of those guys dropping down spots at the start, and everybody else will be on the set of the mediums, as Rens Thomason has run into a bit of an incident. Will be going into the pit lane, has got damage on that front wing, and that could be his race done and dusted already. Big shame there for Rens Thomason as we go into lap 2 of 26, and still it's John Evans that leads ahead of Josh Edo, and then Tamas Gal in the top 3 for R8G. And then we do see as well Pasquale Ranielli looking to close in on the back of Lekomsky, as also Godendorp looks to close back to the rear of the VA driver, as Rens Thomason retires in the pit lane. So no points for him, and that is definitely not what FBR would have been hoping for. As here goes Declan Barrett to the inside of Jack West, in towards Brooklands corner. A slight bit of contact as they make their way through. Declan's going to try and hang it around the outside, hasn't got the grip and purchase, and will stay in P7 for now. But what an opportunity that could have been for the FBR driver.
Absolutely, Declan Barrett looking to retake positions lost off that race start. Jack West did start in P8, but has benefited on the race start up into P6, lining up behind that Ferrari, Angelo Di Hortensio. We saw plenty of action with him and Ulas Zildrim off on that race start, but for now, falling back in the order. Currently looking at Luca Rapassa, who's starting to close up to Tycho Hardy. Tycho Hardy struggling to make those hard compounds come alive and help him along in this opening stint. Closing is Luca Rapassa, but Tycho's doing enough. No, he's not. He goes for a lunge to the inside of Store, and Luca Rapassa with huge contact with Tycho Hardy is sent almost spinning out of control, which has opened the door for Ben Sabakonye to go the long way around, but has to fall back out of that one and allow that position to stay for Luca Rapassa. He had an opportunity, but just played it smart and did not want to risk any unnecessary contact.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a late lunge by Luca Rapassa. I don't think Tycho Hardy saw him coming at all there, heading into Stowe corner. And luckily, Luca Rapassa came off without damage and without spinning out, because that could have definitely been a race ender for the Veloce Academy driver. We continue on, and here is Declan Barrett once again looking to make a move to get ahead of Jack West. Down into Brooklands corner, but this time not close enough to go for the lunge, and we'll slot back in 7th place as we head through in towards Luffield and then Woodcuts. And Lekomsky as well has got some decent pace in that McLaren as well. He'll be looking to try and move forward here in this race and try and get up into the top 5 for the McLaren team. And a result like this, P6 and P8, will be brilliant for the Papaya. They, of course, have had a bit of a poor start to the season, sit P8 in the standings, haven't had that many top 10 finishes, so they kind of need to finish both in the top 10 here to try and get ahead of Veloce Academy, who currently sit P9 and P12.
actually need to do something to score some much needed points. They are previous champions, but sat there in the standings down at the bottom end and need to do something. Luca Rapassa for Veloce, he's had his fair share of moments already, and it's only lap 3.
Indeed, yep. Luca Rapassa, who's just trying to force his way forward, of course, after a poor qualifying, needs to try and get some moves done early, and of course that'll help him when we get to the pit stop phase of the race, probably around 8 or 9 laps time, depending on when drivers choose to pit. As all what's happened there to Jack West, goes off the track completely at turn 1. Not sure if that's some sort of wheel issue there for Jack West. He goes off the track, rejoins down in 9th place, fighting side by side with Kian Gerdendorp, and that is not good at all for Jack West. And just as I say, they're having a good race. I'll jinx it, and he drops down to P10, and that puts one of the VA cars ahead of him. And of course, they're the two teams battling for that 7th place currently.
Absolutely correct on that one. McLaren crucially trying to score back much needed points to catch up against Veloce Academy, and it's just, you know, for Jack West, bit of a disaster moment though, but he's not lost out too much. He's still in a good position, but in a way it's a bad position. He's mid-pack, he's stuck dead centre of that dirty air. He's going to find it very difficult to make opportunities happen now, whereas his teammate Lakomsky is just running the pace, following the rest of the train. He could do with being up there with his teammate, then they could work together and claw back through the field.
Indeed, that is definitely not good for McLaren as we continue our way on, and Tygo Hardy and Ben Shabakonya are looking to get a little bit more settled in now on their hard tyres after losing quite a few places on the start. They've got into things and they're not looking as under pressure as they were in the first opening laps as we head down towards Club and Vale for the 4th time in this race to begin lap 5 of 26, and still out front it is John Evans leading from Josh Edo. Of course, a brilliant start for those guys, but I think we expected to see not many position changes between the top 5 because that's what this game brings. Unless you make a start on the make a move on the first lap, you're kind of doomed for the rest of the stint because it's so difficult to make moves, close up, and stick in that dirty air. Hence why the top 5 hasn't changed since lap 1. And I've got to say, Angelo D'Ortenzio could be struggling a little bit here. He's dropped back to around 7 or 8 tenths on occasion, and that is certainly not what the Ferrari driver wants, because if he does drop back to 7 or 8 tenths, a mistake here or there could drop him outside that 1 second, and that is then crucial for his race.
Yeah, absolutely. If he breaks that DRS, D'Ortenzio will be under tremendous pressure from not Declan Barrett, but Simon Lakomsky as well, with the DRS coming towards Store Corner. Just one perfect run for both drivers. You could see him lose 2 positions, fall down to P7, and then has to work harder to try and regain those positions back. And in that train, in that dirty air, it's proving difficult lap after lap. I mean, I was expecting some drivers to make a couple little mistakes here and there, open some doors here and there, but it seems that everybody's very well focused, sticking to the lines and making sure that they're not losing too much of a time gap. You see, D'Ortenzio, he's dropping to 7 tenths, but not too far away from the danger zone. He's still clawing back tenths to around half a second, and it's where he's much needed. We do see Kian Gordon dive into the pits. Is that too early? Is this 2-stop strategy, maybe?
I mean, I don't think he'd go for 2 stops, because around this track, with how long the pit lane is...
Ooh. Declan Barrett to the outside, to the inside even. Slight contact with D'Ortenzio. Saw an opportunity and tried to make that work, but has to fall back in line and stay in P6. D'Ortenzio has lost out quite a bit of time and he's on the cusp of losing DRS, but did just manage to keep hold of it though, as he's really, really on the fringes of that 1 second gap.
Indeed, and I'm sure, like I said, you can't do a 2-stop around here because of the pit lane length and the time you spend in the pit lane, because of it being I think only 60 kilometers an hour compared to most of them being 80 or something like that, 70 or 80. So yeah, that is why not normally ideal to do a 2-stop. So Keane will be definitely fighting with his tyre wear near the end, going for that undercut. Of course, those in the train aren't doing that ultimate pace. They're all trying to save their engines. They're all moving outside of the slipstream. So that should help Keane close in, because he'll be looking at, as soon as that crossover point hits, which is probably around now, of when the hards become quicker than the mediums, get in the pit lane, go early, and just risk it. Why not? He's got nothing to lose from 9th and 10th. He might as well go and try something a little bit different.
Well, certainly, he's going to want to try and pull off some form of strategy, Kian Gordon. He had that disaster qualifying, didn't he? So Hopefully, this is the strategy to help
West.
pull him along and pull him back. But what I have noticed, I'm on board with Tycho Hardy to see if those hard tyres were starting to come into play, and he's missing that front left end plate, crucially damaging his aerodynamic performance, and that is why he's dropping pace to the back of Pascal Ranelli.
Indeed, and that helps those in the top 8 now because they've got a buffer to those behind on the medium tyres as well as those that started on the hards. There's Jack West also in on lap 7. Very early pit stop for the McLaren, of course, went off track earlier on down at turn 1, and like I said, it must have been some sort of issue because even I don't go off track at turn 1 around here, so I don't know how Jack West has managed to do that at all. He rejoins, and look at that, undercut by 1 lap. Those two were separated by what, 1 position, 2 positions? Kian's got a 2.5 second advantage, and that will increase as they head to the end of sector 1 because of Kian's tyres being warmer. So that's how crucial that undercut can be for drivers, and that's why Kian went in that 1 lap earlier, because it's given him a heavy advantage. And a 1 lap, offset isn't going to help Jack West that much, to be fair. If it was 3 or 4 laps, then you probably have more of a reason to probably have that 2.5 second gap. But Jack would not want to be coming out that far behind Kian.
I've just seen Luca Rapassa slip on past Tycho Hardy with DRS. Tycho Hardy loses more time suffering with that damaged front wing, but can't afford to box and lose out more time. Has to stick it out on these hard tyres for a little bit longer until he can make those mediums become a viable strategy. So Tycho Hardy really struggling with the car, really struggling with that lack of aerodynamics. He's just trying to run the pace, trying to stay with the
Jack
field.
West got damage.
Jack West has got damage.
And he's lost time, so I'm not sure if he's made a mistake, but he's back into the pit lane. I think Jack West might have somewhere hit a wall. He's into the pit speeds in DNFs. Oh my, well, Jack West is not happy. Dear me. I presume he's got damage from hitting a wall somewhere because he was 2.5 seconds back. He was 4.5 heading into Stowe and had a damaged end plate. So Jack West suffering from some sort of mistake and, well, calls it quits.
I wonder if that's, like you say, maybe some form of technical issue, some wheel issue. He went off at turn 1, and maybe coming out of the pits, his wheel's not responded, and he's clattered the wall, and then he's had to come back around and just gone, nah, my wheel's not working, I'm going to have to call this a night. Well,
I'm going to try and find out what's going on to Jack West, because I did see him typing for a moment in the E-Series chat, so I'm going to a little look and see if I can find out what happened, but certainly not ideal at all for McLaren and for Jack West, and I think I might stop talking because I've jinxed them heavily again, as here we see our top guys heading into the pits, our top 3, and then Declan Barrett continues on.
Feeling like he can go 1 lap longer. Now, is that tyre offset going to prove to be absolutely crucial at the end of the race? He's certainly going to get undercut. We saw how powerful that was for Kian Gordondorp over the likes of Jack West within 1 lap. So with this, Declan Barrett's going to need one hell of an in-lap to try and mitigate that time loss, but inevitably, he's just going to lose out more time than he would ever gain.
Yeah, certainly. And let's see where Ulashes Ildren comes out compared to John Evans, because this is key for the Red Bulls race. Of course, both Red Bulls sit together. They can work as a team. Now, where are they going to put themselves? Kian goes behind Josh Edu. Could look to go ahead and jump up into 3rd place provisionally as we head in towards the loop and Aintree. And that just shows how easy that undercut has worked for Kian, because he was, what, P9? He's now in P4 ahead of Angelo D'Ortenzio. 2 laps earlier is key. As Jack West has told us, nothing better than your wheel disconnecting, having to hold it 45 degrees to keep it straight, then it happening again and putting you in a wall. Big shame there for Jack West. Not ideal at all, and I think as well as a driver, that certainly puts you with such low confidence all the time, because you're always thinking, is the wheel going to disconnect? Is the wheel going to disconnect? And that is definitely a big shame for Jack West. So hopefully he can get his issues sorted quite quickly. Josh Edu is on the attack.
Josh Edu looking to try and close up now. Can he potentially get a run and make a charge for what would be net P2? And then he has John Evans to catch for the race lead. Technically, as everybody above those top bows bottom 10 have yet to pit and implement those strategies, we do see FRT driver going now. I keep butchering your name. I'm not even going to attempt it.
Skither.
Skither. Yeah, Skither goes into the pits. So it's interesting to see now what sort of split we're going to get. We're going to have two lots of races going on here because we have those that have already pit from P10 downwards and then those from P1 to P10 who have yet to pit and who will have a massive gap over the rest of the grid. So we've got two little races going on here. You've got the top 10 versus the bottom 10.
Indeed, as we do see Skidder come out rather far behind the back of Gabor Chontos, his teammate. It's around a 5-second gap, so Skidder has got little chance of getting into the top 10 here. All depends on what happens for the current top 8 who are yet to pit in this race. As we make our way into Brooklyn's corner, Josh Edo, you can see, he's always on the back of Ulash, always looking to try and close in on the Red Bull and try and go for a charge and go up into P2 is key. And you can see currently in P12, I think the good thing here for him, if he pitted early, he will definitely be struggling with tyre wear towards the end. But because he's in a train and everybody's also, trying to save tyres a little bit, he can also save his tyres and probably be in a little bit more of a comfortable spot heading to the end of the race. It's not like he's going to instantly drop off and lose time. Because everybody's trying to save tyres, he can also do so as well on those 4-lap old tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. On that. Even though he's gone for that undercut, that risky strategy, you always have that on your mind. Am I going to suffer at the end? Is the tyre wear going to be too much to defend against any challenges that come against me? But being in that train, easy to mitigate. You can just follow on and just ease off your pace and make sure those tyres will be useful at the end of the Grand Prix. Even if you have had to push for 2 extra laps over your current rivals, these drivers certainly have the knowledge and the know-how of the tyres to manage that and use them when needed most. But for now, Cian Gordon-Dorp, beautiful position to be in. And it's only a 3-lap difference to Josh Edo ahead, so it's not even that huge a margin.
No, definitely not. I'm sure towards the end it'll probably have a bit more of a bit more of an effect, but for now it probably is quite fine as we continue our way on. So the top 3, as it stands, is John Evans, Ulash Zildjian and Josh Edo. Cian Gordon-Dorp in the top 4 and Angelo D'Ortenzio reigning off the top 5. And we have been told as well, Julian saying Tycho's dead with his wing damage. Not ideal at all for Tycho Hardy. Of course, went for a different strategy at the start onto the hards and got, fortunately, wing damage quite early on, and that has definitely been quite detrimental to his Grand Prix this evening, and will definitely be under pressure from Bench Shabakoni as the laps go on. And the question is, when does Declan Barrett choose to come in? Because he's going to have a 5-lap offset over Cian, a 3-lap offset over Ulash and Angelo, so this could still work out here for Declan if he has got pace in the race and if he's got pace on his tyres. Luca Rapace follows in Declan as Tycho Hardy and Ben Shabakoni stay out, and then we see our top other medium guys into the pits, and Enzo Soom also staying out another lap here on the medium. These mediums have got to be near puncture range surely after 11 laps.
It's brave enough that some drivers have tried to push them to 11 laps, and Enzo Soom certainly feels like one more in the bag is going to be safe, but he's going to lose out too much time, I think, compared to the rest of the grid. Everybody now starting to box off those mediums onto the high compounded tyre. He's going to have the tyre deficit for Ben Shabakoni and Tycho Hardy as they go to mediums. He goes on to hards, so it's a bit of a... What are you thinking here, Enzo?
Yeah, definitely. Just, I suppose, because his teammate's gone in, he can't go in behind him because he'll lose more time from the, from being double stacked. So yeah, it's not going to be the best race here for VNT because they've also came out, Stevens came out 2 seconds back from Skidder, and that's definitely going to harm him here because it's going to be so hard to get back within the second of the FRT car, and then Enzo Soom will probably come out even further behind his own teammate and Nelson Alves. So not been the best evening for VNT, but of course when you start at the back it's so difficult to make anything work as Shabakoni looks to take the lead ahead of Tycho Hardy, goes up into P1 for the Alpine team. Of course they'll head back down towards the Val chicane and go once again. Of course they'll probably come in around lap 16, lap 17, maybe a lap or two later depending on what they want to do, but of course they'll be hoping that they can use the mediums to their advantage and push on late and make some crucial moves. We head back down towards the chicane with our leaders. Of course, it's been a good race so far as well for Szymon Lekomski. Currently sit P7 for the McLaren team, and at least they'll get one car in the top 10, that's safe to say.
Keeping my eyes on John Evans at the minute, who's almost broke a second to Ulash Zildrim. Going to put Zildrim under a lot of pressure from Josh Edu from behind. And Keane Gordon don't mind have to do something to help out his teammate, as that 1 second looks a little bit tasty for John Evans. He's still trying to push on hard and break it, but to no avail. Ulash Zildrim still within DRS, but just about.
Indeed, as we continue our way on. Of course, the gap now between Tycho and John is 10.7. The loss here is around 25, I think. So, there's going to be, what, 15 seconds that Shabakonyi and Tycho Hardy have to make up to the leaders. That's going to be difficult. But I still think, with the pace that they'll have, that a top 10's on the cards. I really think it will be. So, they've got to work hard here now to push forward. As we've been asked what lap did Keane pick. It was lap 5 for Keane, very early, and then it was 2 laps later for Jack West, and then everybody else followed afterwards. As we continue on, and of course Declan Barrett, he's looking to make some moves. He's just behind the back of Gabor Chontos, would like to get ahead of the FRT as quick as possible, and Gabor doesn't even fight it, pretty much lets him through. Down towards Stowe Corner, and into P11 goes Declan Barrett. I mean, if Gabor fights with him, they lose more time, and then that just stops them from catching up to Pasquale Ranieri. But with the tyres that Declan has compared to Pasquale, he can probably get within a second. Hopefully for Gabor, he'll be thinking that he can stick within a second of Declan Barrett and just pull along with him and get into that main train. That's what they'll be trying to do here as we make our way down towards Village. And you can see Declan already gaining 4 tenths on this lap on the back of Pasquale, 5 tenths on this lap. We head through into Aintree.
4-lap tyre difference, but Declan Barrett certainly using those 4-lap advantage to his advantage and gaining time like an absolute missile. So hopefully he can close up to the back of P10, get in that DRS and be under no threat from Gabor Santos from behind. But even then, Santos, he's floating on the cusp of losing DRS with that tyre deficit.
Indeed. So it will definitely be an interesting end to the race, I've got to say. As here, Declan Barrett's lost time, a lot of time to Pasquale Ranieri, and that has brought Gabor Chontos into DRS once again, because he initially did lose that for a moment. As we make our way back through in towards Maggots, Beckets and Chapel. Let's see what's going to happen here. Of course, Matthias Verhoeven as well will be looking to get within DRS of Gabor Chontos. Of course, that will help him as well in terms of pushing forward in this race, along with Luca Rapassa, who could be looking for a move to get ahead of the Williams car in towards Stowe Corner. Up the inside goes Luca Rapassa, gets that move complete and gets ahead of the Williams car. Will Matthias try and fight back? No, he's too far back. Heading in towards the Vale chicane, through into Club Corner. A move being made there by Luca, and he's also within a second of Gabor, which is crucial for him. So, everybody, P3 down to P14, possibly even P15 if either can gain half a tenth. They're all within that DRS, and that is crucial for the races here, especially those that are on that offset looking to move forward. As here comes Lekomsky on the back of Gal.
Yeah, Lekomsky looking to try and close up. He's got the DRS, maybe burn a bit of the battery to try and make an opportunity happen. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Tomas Gal had that well and truly covered off. So McLaren still struggling to try and make inroads, as one driver has had to see himself out of it after picking up some damage, and I don't blame him. He would have been well and truly out of this race from what has happened to him thus far with his wheel disconnection issues as well. So you don't want to have that on your mind all the time, and like you say, with the confidence issues, that certainly puts you under a bit of an unknown. Do I race this race? Is it even worth racing if I can only last half a lap?
We continue our way on, and John Evans now is, well, for a second broke that DRS gap to Ulash, but Ulash has got back within it again. So there is moments here where the gap is getting so close to being over a second as our top two head into the pits. So now we'll see, Keane's in. Keane's going for the two-stop strategy. That's interesting. I mean, we knew that the tyre wear would be difficult to the end for him to manage, but never mind, he's in again. This is interesting indeed.
I had a feeling as much with him being lap 6. And if he goes on to the mediums, which he hasn't,
he's on hards again.
Hards, that's okay. That's a questionable call. Mediums, I get. Just with the advantage, the tyre difference that you've got right now over the hard runners, you're the fastest man on the grid. To go hards is a little bit questionable, but I'm not going to question it. Let's see what Keane can produce. He's down at the back of the grid now and has a lot of work to do to catch up to even P17.
I mean, they said to me yesterday my strategy in F7 was poor because I started someone on mediums and it was raining. at like lap 20 and we kept him out. I think this might have trumped that one, I think. Keegan Godendorf has a lot of work to do. What's the gap to the leader? 25.8 seconds. I mean, I don't think even God could bring that gap down to well, being up in the lead. That's going to be difficult for Keegan. I mean, maybe a top 10's on the cards, but higher than that, it's going to be a task.
It's 10 laps, 2.5 second gain a lap. I don't even think that would be possible with his tyres start to burn off within 5-6 laps time. It will be possible. I'd say he could gain 2.5 seconds within the first 3 laps. Yeah, easy. But then he's just going to start to slip away. The grip's going to go and he's going to start understeering. And at that point, you lose more than you could ever hope to gain. So it's a real Hail Mary. But if anything could have done it, I think the mediums may have had a chance.
Well, we'll see what happens. I suppose it's a time for people to test new strategies out. But here we go. Let's see what Keane can do, because he's starting to bring that gap down. But of course, we've only got 9 laps to go in this race. As here is a move potentially for Declan Barrett up the inside of Lekomsky, looking to go up into P6 for FBR. This would be brilliant for those guys to potentially even catch up on Williams as they've currently had a bit of a poor start in this race. And Barrett does go up into P6 there. A nice move ahead of Szymon Lekomsky. We continue our way on, heading through in towards turn number, whatever that turn number, is it 8 at Luffield?
Luffield, I think he's 8.
Yeah, because normally I don't know the corner names around this track. I don't know the corner numbers, only the names.
Yeah, I'm the same. I know name. I couldn't tell you numbers. Like what I could tell you, the only thing I can tell you is the loop is turn 4.
Yes.
That I do know, because the amount of times that I've seen incidences at the loop, so I'm a steward in some leagues, so I see some incidents in the loop all the time, and nobody calls it the loop, they call it turn 4, so I know that the loop is turn 4.
There we go, at least we know one of the corners, as Luca Rapassa makes his way through into Stowe corner. That, I'm going to go turn 15, random corner number, I think it's something like that anyway. Into 7th for Luca Rapassa as we make our way through. Onto lap 18 of 26, and the gap between Keane and tyre covers came down by a second on the last lap. So at the moment, you're looking to bring that gap down by 9 seconds in total, which puts you around P13. No, P15. It's Declan Barrett on the charge again.
I like what John Evans is doing here. So John Evans is very, very comfortable. He's putting Ulysses Ildrim under a lot of pressure, risking the loss of DRS, which is forcing Ulas to use a bit of the battery lap after lap, therefore depleting his overall charge. Now, I've got to say, John Evans is well and truly happily sat on full. Oh,
sorry there, Corey. But Tamas Gal got back ahead of Declan Barrett, and I thought for a moment there Declan Barrett was going to, unfortunately, spin out Tamas Gal, but luckily he collected the car and then continue on. But that was a close call indeed for Tamas Gal and Declan Barrett as they continue on. And, of course, Declan has now brought Luca Rapassa into the party. Of course, these two will be looking to push forward and get past Tamas, get past Angelo, and make some more moves, because this offset has worked heavily for Declan Barrett. He's got some good pace around his home circuit, but he's got to be careful not to make more mistakes, because if he does, Luca Rapassa will be there on the scene looking to make moves.
And they are on the freshest tyres out of the top 10. So 4-lap tyre difference. Tamas Gal's at a moment, and side by side go Rapassa and Declan Barrett. And Rapassa's trying to slip on through now as they come onto the exit and down the Hamilton Straight. Still side by side as we approach Abbey. Still side by side as we approach Farm. Who's going to come out on top of this one? I think Rapassa may have this one in the bag as he does slip ahead of Declan Barrett. But Declan Barrett is not leaving no loose change out. He's going to try and fight that one back, looking for a potential switchback as we come back around the loop, but to no avail. Rapassa stays ahead on the exit of entry.
The issue is there, Declan's got no battery. He had around 30% less than Luca Rapassa, and that was what it was down to. Luca, he was ready. He was like, right, we're going to go for it. Let's just send it. And Declan had no battery to respond, and he was there. There he is, stuck in P7 now, and that's going to be difficult for him, because if Luca can't get past Tamas Gal, then Declan's also stuck in P7. So this is going to be crucial here for Barrett. He needs to hopefully keep ahead of Klomsky, which I think he can do with his tyres. But of course, it's going to be difficult now for him to move forward in the race after being overtaken by Luca Rapassa. Here goes Luca, looking to close in on the back of Tamas Gal, possibly looking to make a move himself. Of course, Declan Barrett pretty much got the move done down to Brooklands. Tamashgal fought back and kept his position ahead, and now Luca, it's his turn to try and attack the R8G car. Of course, for R8G, this is a key race because they need to keep that gap to Red Bull as close as possible. It's currently 0 points between the two. With Ulash finishing P2, Tamash can't afford to be losing spots. He needs to be as close to Ulash as possible.
Yeah, as it stands, I think Red Bull would just take it ahead on points deficit with Ulas finishing in that P2, and side by side goes Rapasa and Tamashgal. Tamashgal forced into that defensive posture, will now have the inside line as we come back around the loop and towards the entry. Rapasa may have to fall back in line and wait for the DRS. He's not. He's going to keep his foot in the door. He's going to keep the pressure on that R8G driver, and Veloci Academy are now making inroads as there goes Luca to the outside, to the inside, diving into Brooklands, and now will have to be forced to go around the long way for Luffield, but he's still keeping his foot in the door, still keeping the pressure on Tamascal, but Tamascal with that inside line just benefited on the exit, and this has allowed Declan Barrett to close right back up to Luca Rapasa and put some great pressure on that Veloci Academy driver.
That was scary there for a moment. I thought Declan Barrett was going to go for the move, but the defence by Tamashgal has been insane. I mean, you can clearly see the pace difference between Luca and Declan compared to Tamash. There's a big difference, but Tamashgal has kept that car, you know, in the perfect spots at the perfect time. Still, it's in P5 as now Rapasa and Barrett close in once again, heading down towards turn number 17 at the Club Vale chicane. Does Luca go for a move? No, a little bit too far back this time around. As we head through into the final couple of corners, we do see Gabor Chantos in the pit lane. He's also going for a pit stop. That's interesting indeed. For Chantos, he's also just trying something a little bit different in this race, unless he's got a little bit of damage. But back to the scene with Rapasa and Gal. What can Luca Rapasa do this time? Because he's probably going to have to go for something different. He goes to the inside, into the loop. There's contact between the two cars. And can Luca get himself up the inside? He can. Through into Aintree. But there's no move for Luca Rapasa. There's possibly a move for Declan Barrett. He's looking all over the rear of that Mercedes. To the inside goes Barrett. There's nearly contact once again as they head into Brooklands corner. Can anyone find a move? No, they cannot. And these three cars are having a superb battle for P5. And still nobody can find an overtake.
This is absolutely beautiful driving from Tamascal. He's got worse tyres, but he's able to use those tyres still and pull off a stellar defence to keep Rapasa and Declan Barrett behind. Rapasa looking for any open door, any opportunity to slip on through, but the defence is just too strong. It's a shield wall from Tamascal, and Declan Barrett just looking to pick up the pieces from the squabbles ahead.
He certainly is, and we go once again down to Stowe corner. And everybody in the top five, apart from Tamashgal, are quite comfortable sitting there. But Tamash has got Luca and Declan behind. And the issue is, though, now, if Luca and Declan keep pushing as hard as they are and fighting as much as they are, they're also going to increase their tyre wear. And that's going to halt their, their chances of making moves ahead of Tamashgal and those ahead. I mean, if you look at 3 laps ago when Declan Barrett pretty much got ahead of Tamashgal, he probably would have got ahead of Angelo as well, to be fair. He probably could have been on for a P4, but he made a mistake. Luca got ahead of him. They've all been squabbling, and in the whole of it, nobody's actually benefited at all, apart from Tamashgal, who should be the car who doesn't benefit at all. As we continue our way on in towards the loop and Aintree once again, and that was a slight mistake there for Pasquale Ranielli. That could give an opportunity to Matthias van Erven down towards Brooklands corner. Does the Williams have enough to go for a move? No. Has to slot in behind, and now with 4 laps to go, look at these guys here. Shabakonyi is on the back of Enzo Soom as they make their way through. And then Kean Godendorp is also closing in, but it's just not at the the rate he would have wanted to. He's still 6 seconds away from Ben Shabakonyi. With 4 laps to go, I don't think he's going to be colouring in 1.5 seconds a lap here. So this is really not worked out for Red Bull. As here is Shabakonyi looking to make a move ahead of Enzo Soom. This will be heading in towards Baggett. Baggett and Beckett, but no move being made, and P15 for Shabakonyi.
Oh, I love it. Nice. He's still looking to try and potentially close up to Enzo soon, but it's just not happening yet. The VNT drivers holding 13th and 14th strong, But I'm still trying to keep my eyes on Tomascal and Luca Rapassa. Maybe no Rapassa and Declan Barrett have used too much of their tyres because they're not making inroads like they were previous laps ago. Tomascal may have done enough to fend off this onslaught and maintain that P5. But we've still got 3 laps to go. So let's see if Rapassa or Declan Barrett have any more in the tank, because Rapassa's getting dangerously close. He's looking to the outside. He's run it wide and he's opened the door for Declan Barrett to slip on through. Now Barrett's forced to the outside as we come back around the loop and towards entry. Rapassa's getting mighty aggressive on the defence, and he's not going to let Barrett through. But Barrett knows the game. He knows to keep his foot in the door. He knows to keep the pressure on and stays there with Luca Rapassa, but to no avail on position. Now looking for an outside line, coming back around Luffield, but it's not happening just yet. Barrett almost catching a bit of a tank slapper, managing to keep that V-carb going and pointed in the right direction. Did very well to stay out of trouble. But it's Luca Rapassa versus Declan Barrett here, and Tomascal can breathe a little bit.
Indeed, and I think if Declan didn't get that snap on the back of Luffield, he could have possibly got alongside Rapassa into Copse Corner. And we've seen a couple of times where Declan Barrett has tried to do that, has tried to go and make a move into Copse, but can never get quite close enough to the back of Luca Rapassa. But we go once again, and it's yet again mistakes from those who should be pushing forward. It was a mistake from Rapassa into turn 3. Tamas Gal's laughing at this point because there's been at least 3 or 4 attacks from Rapassa and Barrett. None of them have worked, and he's just stayed in P5 without having to do that much, really. So, once again, Luca Rapassa's got to save the battery, prepare and go again on the back of Tamas Gal, and with 2 laps to go, he's only got limited time as we make our way through in towards turn 3 once again. And looking further back here, there still is an opportunity for Keane Godendorp to possibly get P16 here as he goes ahead of Tygo Hardy, but I think that might be the most here for the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, that's all he's going to be able to pull out. He tried that a little bit of an unorthodox strategy, like you say. Is the 2-stop even viable? You thought no with that 60km/h pit lane restriction, and with it being quite a long pit lane, 25 seconds loss at least. It was certainly a Hail Mary, but for Keane Godendorp, P16 seems to be all she wrote. With 2 laps to go and 4.6 seconds to the nearest car, I doubt he's going to pull that one back.
Indeed, we continue on. What's happened there to Van Erven? He's dropped down to P14, has made a mistake somewhere because, yeah, down to P15 here for Matthias Van Erven. Not sure what's happened to the Williams, but he's gone from P10 to P15 in the matter of a couple of corners and a straight. Not good at all for the Williams team, who were looking in a decent spot earlier on with Matthias Van Erven. But I've got to say, a brilliant recovery from Nelson Alves, and also Skither, FRT, on for a top 10. Brilliant result so far for the FRT team. As we make our way through in towards Stowe Corner once again. And is there only last lap, or last couple of lap, chance for Luca Rapassa? The gap's 6.5 tenths, and I think, Corey, I think that's it done. I don't think there's going to be any other opportunity for Luca to get the move because of the fact his tyres are also getting older now. It's going to be harder to go for an attack because of that tyre wear.
I think he's burnt out too much. All those attempts on Tomascal has just proved to pay the difference. Tomascal saving the tyres, using them when he needed to on defence against Rapassa. You just couldn't ask for any more for the RAG driver. He's done everything perfect, crispy clean, and kept that Veloci Academy driver behind him. And now Rapassa is struggling. He's burnt out those tyres too quickly. No more opportunities are going to come his way. If they are, it's going to be a last lap absolute send from the heavens for Rapassa as a last-ditch effort to pull that position away.
Indeed. And we continue on through Copse for the penultimate time in this race, and it's still John Evans that leads. Has led, I think, well, pretty much led since lap 1. We ignore the fact that he pitted earlier than others. He's always been the net leader throughout the whole race as we continue on. And, of course, Ulasha Zildrim in second, and Josh Edu is in third. Still looking for a podium for Alpine, which is what they need after a poor round last time out in Spain. And then further back, we do have a gaggle of cars having a battle. This is P9, well, P8, all the way down to P12 and possibly even P13 getting involved here as we head in towards Stowe Corner. And Nelson Alves there. Bit of a fake move to the inside of Skither. Skither will certainly be under pressure here from the Williams car. In towards the Vel chicane they go. Is anybody looking for a move? No. They all stay where they are. Single file through into Club Corner. And we go on to the final lap of the race. John Evans leads with a 5.5 tenth gap to Ulasha Zildrim. And Corey, I just can't see anything happening here because the gap is just too big. The DRS and the slipstream, the dirty air, just doesn't provide enough here for Ulash to ever think about making a move.
I don't think it's going to happen for him. Certainly not here as we get going down towards Brooklands. The gap is just too big. The DRS is not long enough to use to your advantage to close that gap up enough. And with the dirty air, the tyre deficit, be it only one lap, John Evans does have the slight fresher tyre. He can still attack corners a little bit better than Ulas's Ildrim. Although Ulas will benefit with the DRS, it's just not enough. And you can see John Evans pace through the corners. You can see the tents start to open up, especially as we got out of Woodcock, though. He just has the pace. Oh, excuse me. He just has the pace over Ulas. And as we get going now into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, the tents start to open up again.
Does, and the gap 9.5 tenths of a second. It could even be over a second by the time we hit that DRS, but it won't be. Ulas does have DRS, but there's absolutely nothing that he can do with it. Of course, last time he was here in Silverstone, it was a P2 for John Evans. In Spain last week, it was a P2 for John Evans, but today he's going to make it a P1 for himself and for Ferrari into the Val chicane for the final time, in towards Club Corner. It's John Evans and Ferrari who win the British Grand Prix ahead of Red Bull and Ulas's Ildrim, and Josh Edu reigns off the podium for Alpine in third place. And I'm noticing further back what has happened to Szymon Lekomski. He's got a puncture. 18 laps in and he's taken a puncture. And Declan Barrett, I think, finished, but I think just has left the session before we finished the session. So I don't think he actually DNF'd there. I hope not anyway.
I think he did hit the checkered flag there before he left the session. We know it's a non-bug to push you down the order, even though you'd hit the checkered flag. And Lekomski, he isn't going nowhere. That car is missing an entire tyre. He's just limping back to the checkered flag, just trying to take it home. And to finish off in what will be back of the grid, P18 for Lekomski.
I'm not going to comment on McLaren anymore. Oh, dear me. I said they were starting to do better. I said it's going to look good. They're both in the top 10. Somehow they finish 18th and DNF. Tell me how. Oh, dear me. But John Evans, what a race. Well, I mean, I feel bad because even though I say what a race, he didn't have to do much, did he? He just kind of led the whole way. And with the way the game is, Ulas has got no chance. But, of course, he takes the win ahead of Ulas and Josh. Then it'll be Angelo Tamashgal with a superb defence. Insane defence. Ahead of Luca Rapassa, Pasquale Ranieri, brilliant for the V18. They were Skidder in 8th, brilliant for FRT. I think their second best finish this season. Nelson Alves 9th and VNT into the top 10 with Stephen Basso. Then we have Enzo Soon, Ben Shabakonyi, Matthias Van Erven, Keen Godendorp with a poor strategy from Red Bull. Hardy in P15. Then we have Gabor Chontos and then Szymon Lekomski. Declan would have been P7, my bad. So yeah, Declan would have been 7th. Then we had, of course, Jack West and Rens Thomason lost very early on. But, oh dear me, that was eventful at points. At least we had a battle in the midfield, that's safe to say.
Yeah, that certainly brought a first bit of entertainment, especially, my driver of the day is certainly going to Tomasz Gal for his amazing defence, holding off those charging... Luca Rapassa and Declan Barrett with what seemed to be like a 4-lap, I think, tyre difference, and did that amazingly. So, all props to R8G, Tomasz Gal. What a run for him today in Silverstone.
Indeed. We are hopefully going to get in a couple of drivers for a quick interview. But what did you make of that race there, because I think it was a really interesting one all the way to the end.
Yes, it was. So a bit unorthodox of strategies like Keen Gordondorp boxing lap 6 made you think, is he going to 2-stop? Then he did choose to 2-stop, but he absolutely did nothing. He was far too far back. So that goes to show you that even if you have to manage tyres, which again are proven by Szymon Lekomski as he got a punch on the last lap, tyre management, one stop is the way to go in Silverstone. So that again, that's crucial insight into this game cycle as we are only in the first seasons of most of the leagues and especially E-Series. It's still early days into the game cycle, still a big learning curve for a lot of the drivers. So that's beautiful insight, beautiful knowledge to go on through the rest of 25. And say if we do get the Season 7 coming, they'll know that the 2-stop is not viable, Red Bull.
Certainly. We do have John Evans in the waiting room. We'll drag him up. John, welcome in. Can you hear us?
I can.
Perfect.
Hello.
So, brilliant race today, of course. P1 to P1. And I suppose qualifying, first of all, really good lap to get into the point threes. Was that something you was expecting heading into Q3?
I wouldn't say expecting. With my bottle, I never expect anything. But I would say it was definitely, it was a really good lap. So I was definitely happy with it.
did. And of course, once you cross the line and you saw that you got a 0.3, you think at that point that pole was covered, or you think that there's still drivers on that grid that could have beat that lap time?
No, I think there was definitely some drivers that could beat it. The grid was really strong this week, so I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I wouldn't have been that surprised if someone beat it.
Definitely. And then of course heading into the race, it was pretty status quo from the start. You didn't really have to defend that much from Ulash. Is that just due to the pace, or do you think it's the fact of dirty air, slipstream, everything that combines just means that nobody has any chance at all really to overtake, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel sorry that you guys had to commentate that, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, once I pitted on lap 8, I think I came out ahead of Ulas. It made my race really straightforward because he had older tires, so I could save even more without having to push. And yeah, Ulas was basically my buffer to just stay in first, and it made it an easy race, which I won't complain with, but also very boring.
Yeah, and of course, I think it was heading to Stowe in the last lap, we saw Shimon with a puncture. I think he did 18 laps on those tyres. Was you ever at a point where you could have got at a puncture on those last couple of laps?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't far off, that's for sure.
But anyway, John, thanks for joining us. Great to have you in here for an interview, and hopefully we'll see you as the season goes on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye-bye. Right, there we go, Corey. Great to have a chat with John, and I don't think we're going to get anybody else in. That's a shame, because last week we had all three. So, quite annoyed here. Grateful.
Well, really. Sometimes the races don't go to how they want. I mean,
No.
Ulas was just sort of following the back end of a Scarlet Red Ferrari for the entire duration of that Grand Prix. Ulas was unable to find any sort of time to even make an opportunity happen. Evans had that covered off all the way. 7 tenths to 9 tenths gaps all the way. No threats from behind of Ulas. It was just perfectly ran. Couldn't ask for any more. And what more can you ask for Ferrari? They are certainly showing that they've had 3 championships. They're here for number 4.
They certainly are, and I think 4 championships in 5 seasons is quite dominant. I don't think it's the fact that they're lucky every season, or luck plays into their game. I think because they've won it that many times, it's just down to their roster. Such an insane roster, of course, with the addition of Ismail Fassi as well heading into this season. That little bit stronger. Of course, the likes of Angelo, who's risen up the ranks. I think season 4 was his first appearance with TRT. Took a win, took a podium. I think from that point, Ferrari were like, right, we've got to get our eyes on this Italian. He's one of our homegrown, essentially heroes in the future. So they had to get him in. They've done so, and he's also done a really good job at the starts of this season and also here tonight in Silverstone. But that will be all from us this evening, Corey. But the last thing we're going to do, actually, I forgot to do it because I didn't do it last. Have a quick look at the calendar. Still got 4 rounds left to go after this. Italy, Azerbaijan, Texas, and Saudi Arabia. I've got to say, I'm excited in general because E-Series is brilliant, but Azerbaijan, that's going to be a bit of a bore fest, I imagine.
Yeah, I feel like that's just going to be an absolute just train. Everybody just following through. You're going to see all the action on lap 1. Maybe some unorthodox strategies trying to pull something out of the bag just to try and gain positions. But other than that, I don't think the driver's going to take too much risk. I mean, down into turn 1, I reckon on the last lap is where you'll see the move for the lead with just how long that straight is. Aided with the DRS, you're going to top speed the car. Eventually, you're going to get past P1, depending how close you are. It's inevitable, even with slipstream. So, move for the lead. Azerbaijan is going to be a huge train all the way through. Then on the penultimate lap, coming down towards the last lap, whoever's in P2 is going to win the race.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 3 tracks that should be quite interesting, I think, in general, because we've got Italy, Monza. Down towards turn 1, a massive opportunity to go for a move. I think even in this game, we might see a couple of drivers actually have a chance to go for an overtake. Azerbaijan, we know it's got a massive back straight down towards turn 1. And then Jeddah is full of little long straights. So I think we might even see a little bit of battle in there. But Texas, Kota, that's going to be an interesting one because it's difficult to make moves. So I think we've got 4 interesting tracks. We don't know what they're going to bring. I'm hoping they bring some fun, entertaining action. But seriously, none of us know. If this was on F124 Corey, I think we have the 4 perfect tracks to end it off. Yeah. Maybe replace Vegas and Texas, and you've got the ultimate 4 tracks. But on this game, I don't think any track is that good. But Corey, before we head off, any final words from yourself?
Just excited to see where we go at the Temple of Speed for Monza next week. Absolutely love Monza. Love to drive it. Love to watch races there. Love to be all about Monza. What a track that is. Such heritage and history there. And of course, Temple of Speeds, where average speeds are no less than 190 miles an hour majority of the time. It's incredible. Absolutely love it. And again, the final round, my favourite track. Can't stress that enough. I absolutely love it since its edition in 2021. Saudi Arabia. Absolutely love that circuit.
Can't wait for Jeddah. Love Jeddah. Monza as well. A track we don't often see in league racing, so I'm glad to have that one back. And then, of course, Baku and Texas. I'm interested to see how they will go. So, indeed, make sure you guys to come back for the final 4 rounds of the season. And, of course, this is all from us tonight. So, a big thanks to SRC with Yorick, Tice, all the guys over there for helping us fund this season. Brilliant to have them on board, and hopefully we can do that season soon. And, of course, a big thanks to Corey as well for joining me this evening, and a big thanks to cats, viewers, drivers, managers, everybody who helps make this. Well, that's all from us. Have a good evening. We'll see you again next week, 7 o'clock, as we head to the Temple of Speed in Monza. So for now, that's all. Good night.